So if you know me, you know I'm a student of the craft, playing the drums, playing music, particularly the music we call jazz. And I always looked up to this gentleman. I always heard stories of Marvin Smitty Smith reading all kind of crazy charts down the first time, playing all kinds of difficult music, and just doing incredible feats. I remember the first time I heard his record, The Keeper of the Drums. My question was, is anyone who's heard that record, was who is that? Yeah, there's been many amazing moments with this gentleman in passing. In my trips to LA, I didn't meet him in New York. I met him in LA. One such moment was a night where he came to see me play with Mulgrew Miller, and at the end of the night, he gave me 2 sheets of some exercises on the great drum book, Syncopation, that I'm still working on. Recently, I had to deal with some issues of just kind of some disrespect of another one of our masters, the great Kenny Washington, and I was further impressed by Marvin Smitty Smith because of the way he spoke out, and that generally doesn't happen that way. So I reached out, we spoke, and I decided that I wanted to do a formal interview with him because there was so much that I didn't know and so much that I was learning, and I just wanted to share that with the people. So I think this is going to be the first of about 3 parts because we talked for a while, and I'm trying to narrow it down so that it makes sense. But yeah, because we were just talking. He's an amazing musician. He's a brilliant musician. If you don't know, before there was a Lewis Nash really on the scene, before there was a Kenny Washington really on the scene, in that gap between the Arthur Taylors, the Billy Harts, the Elvin Joneses, those guys, right? In that gap, before Lewis Nash got to New York, I think he was in Phoenix in school. Before Kenny Washington really came on the scene with Betty Carter, in that gap, playing with the likes of Art Farmer and Ray Brown and people like that, was Marvin Smitty Smith. He really was the precursor to kind of what we know today as the modern jazz drummer, in that he could play the odd meters, he could read, he could swing, he could kind of do it all. And we all owe a great debt to this gentleman, and so I was really excited and honored to speak to him. So check out some great insights with Marvin Smitty Smith.
Here.
Okay.
Or did you? Yeah, right. Or you probably just, maybe I can just join a meeting. I don't know. I'll just get the link. Where's the link? All right, here. Let me get to my email here, bro.
Oh no, take your time. Take your time. I mean, I got some questions for you. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, man. Yeah, let me get to this.
Okay.
My AOL mail. Look, the AOL account still works. That's why I keep it.
Hey man, listen, I ain't mad at you. Do what you do.
Nah. My bad. I had my audio off on the video switcher.
Nice.
My bad.
No.
Anyway.
So I mean, I've been looking forward to this all day, man.
Man, for some reason I only got you in my right channel, man.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah, let me check my my junk here.
I'm supposed to be good.
Yeah, let me check something here, bruh. Let me check. Check. All right. Where am I here? I'm hearing you out of this.
You got me now?
Oh, yeah. Flimsy ass cables.
Right.
You know. Yeah, flimsy ass. Okay. So, the magic. Here we are. Oh,
hey. Look at you.
Hey, oh.
All right, you better be careful, man. I'm gonna ask you for a lesson, man.
Hey, you know, I'm right here, man. Smith Studio, baby.
Some of my questions are gonna
Smith
feel
Drum
like that. But
Yeah,
man,
Smith Drum Studio here, right here. You are seeing me live from the Smith Drum Studio in L.A.
that's beautiful. So man, I wanted to get into this with some questions that I've been wanting to ask you for years since I
Sure.
met you, and you
Yeah.
came in the parking lot and gave me those amazing variations on syncopation.
Hmm.
That the 2 pages that's still kicking my butt.
Yeah.
But
Well, they kicking my butt too because I haven't practiced them in about like 15 years.
no, but you know,
years.
so I was doing some research and I was trying to figure, I was like, where did he come from? So I know your father played drums, but can you tell me who are Charlie Williams and Donald Taylor?
Oh yeah, now Charlie Williams. See, yeah, let's go back to the beginning of my training here, because I started formal training when I was 3.
So I read.
So I started formal training with 3. My godfather James Morton, rest his soul, and he just gave me a practice pad and a pair of sticks, and he said, all right, Smitty, yeah, all cool. I had my Haskell Har book.
Yeah.
I have my Haskell Har book. This is a whole note. This is a half note. This is a quarter note. This is an eighth note, right? Here's a whole note rest. Here's a half note rest. All that, right? So I'm playing, counting, got my start. Now, my dad tried to teach me, obviously, in the beginning. My dad was just, he was a jazz aficionado. He loved the music, loved the music. Just for frame of reference, I was born and raised in a small town called Waukegan, Illinois, just 45 miles north of Chicago. The population really hasn't grown much I'll be 60 this year, and it hasn't grown really very much in 60 years, because at the time I was born, the population was roughly 65,000, and now 60 years later, it's 75,000. So there you go.
Wow.
But anyway, my dad was a jazz aficionado, loved the music, and as we would say, we would drive into the city. My dad used to drive into the city to go check out Bird, you go check out Dizzy, check out,
wow.
Love Max and all those cats.
At the jazz showcase, probably, or one of those
Well,
places?
it was just, this is even before the jazz. So, I mean, I'm talking about I'm talking about the late 40s and into the 50s.
Okay.
Roughly,
Okay.
yeah, 50s. So there were some clubs, definitely in the Shy back then, where my dad would check out Bird, and he checked out, Dizzy, checked out. He loved Art Blakey. That was the Art and Max. Love Art, love Max. And he knew Johnny Griffin. He knew Griff.
Oh, wow.
And knew, and some of the local cats, Wilbur Campbell. He knew
Yeah.
Wilbur. Robert Shy.
Right.
He knew Rob. So he knew a few cats. Like later. That that was a little later. But like the 50s. Like he got to see Bird and Dizzy and Max got to see Art, and he would go see Griff and Dexter do like the tenor battles, or it was
Oh.
like Griff and Lockjaw. You see Jaws, Griff and Jaws. But my dad, his real man was Gene Ammons, Jug. That was his man.
Oh, wow.
He loved Jug, man.
Hitting the
And
jug.
hitting the Jug. Great record, man. That's a great record, man. I just heard that like last week somewhere. Somebody was playing a couple tracks off of that record, man. Joe Newman. I think McDuff's on there, and I think it's George DeVivier, and Walter Perkins, Chi-Town.
Wow. Yeah,
I got to
yeah.
meet Walter when I got to New York. I got to meet Walter Perkins when I was got to New York.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Charlie
yeah.
Williams and Donald Taylor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let me get back on track here.
No, I got
Let me
you.
fix this cheap cable here to make sure I got you in stereo. Yeah. So my dad tried to start me off right, but it's the father-son relationship, and it was just way too intense. You know, he's like, man, yeah, come on, man, you got to be, you know. He said, well, I'm gonna send you to one of my boys. So when I was 5, he brought Charlie Williams, his brother Charlie Williams, to study with. And the thing about Charlie was, Rodney, like, he left a very indelible impression on me, because even as a 5-year-old kid, man, I got to see Charlie play, man, and Charlie, man, was a very versatile player. I mean, this guy, he played piano trio, he played quartet, quintet, played big band, he played the little bebop kit, he played double bass kit, he played stuff, man. So he left
you saw
an impression
that
on me.
early,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
all.
Right.
No
yeah.
borderlines. Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I saw him do that, man, and he was swinging and he was killing, And so he started me off and got me on some fundamentals, get my swing beat right and all that, man. And then
So was he teaching you out of books, or was he just showing you stuff and saying do this? Or?
Yeah. He was showing me, he was showing me some, like some basic, swing, like, okay, ride, hi-hat, feather the kick drum, just. Okay, here's a couple of phrases, and and I was studying reading, through Haskell Hire, and dealing with that, and so getting my nomenclature together and all that, getting my eye chops right. But Charlie started me off, and I studied with him for just a little over a year and a half, and then he moved out to New Jersey, and I caught up with Charlie years later, like the late '80s.
Oh wow!
I caught up with him. I didn't even get to see him. I just, he somehow, I mean, he got my number, and so we just rapped a few times, like in the '80s, like '87, '88. We rapped a few times, and then he passed away too soon, man. Like early '90s.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Like about mid '90s. Yeah, he passed away because I was I think it was like either right before I moved to LA or right after I moved to LA. He passed. And so, but he was a brilliant cat, man.
He sounds like it playing double bass that early. I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean the 60s, early 60s. Early 60s, man. Well, mid 60s, yeah.
So he's
man. Louis
Bellson time. He's in that thing.
Yeah, I mean, he had that flexibility to be able to do that, man.
Man, that's heavy.
Amazing, man. So after because once he moved away to Jersey, then the next guy I studied with was Donald Taylor, and he was actually, he actually worked in waste management. He was a garbage truck, driver,
oh, wow.
man, and he worked at, and I studied with him for 10 years, and Donald was so cool, man, because Donald was the guy that really he really encouraged my creativity and the self-discovery, because he would just give me like 4 or 5 records, it was either Max, or Buhena, Philly Joe or Elvin.
Say, see what you do with that.
Yeah, he say, hey man, look, take these records home, come back next week, show me what you got, right? So I come back the next week and see, on this song here, Elvin does this little thing here. See, this record here, Max played this, So I mean, I would just go home and study the records, man.
Right.
I would I would wear the records out, man. I listened to them over and over. I learned every arrangement of every song on the record. Then I would sit down behind the drums and play along, and then that's when I started to figure out, okay, well, this is how he's phrasing. Okay, so he moved to this time, moved to that time. It's basically, 4-piece, 2 cymbals. So okay, so he's doing it all right. So if he takes a solo, if he trades 4s, okay, I'm trying to figure out the phrasing. Okay, the sticking. Okay, well, I think it's like this or that. So Donald Taylor was very instrumental in letting me self-discover.
So I still haven't heard that you got like Jim Chapin yet. I still haven't heard that you're going through, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it seems like people saw that you had something and they were just letting you go with that. Was that pretty much it, or?
Well, I had that. Well, when I started studying with Donald, then that's when he turned me on to the Jim Chapin book.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And then then it was like the Mel Bay's cookbook, with all the rock, Mel Bay's cookbook, right? All those exercises, right?
Yeah.
So Donald turned me on to all that, right? So reading, get my eye chops up.
Okay.
Studied out of Podemski's book.
Yeah, snare drum
Podemski.
studies. Yeah.
We had Will Coxon. We had Will Coxon books. Man, I'm trying to think of what other books was around. Well, Carmine Appice, man. He had his realistic hi hats. Which I bet Carmine years later, when I moved out to LA, and it's funny, man.
So,
yeah,
you learned, you kind of had like the aural, AURAL thing happening.
The oral tradition.
Right, with the reading, because I know a lot of guys later on, and I guess later on, and even before you, we didn't learn to read so much, or reading wasn't so stressed.
Right. Exactly.
So early, right?
Really emphasized, right?
Because you're reading like bass drum. I mean, like people learn to read some figures,
right?
To learn to read snare drum stuff,
right? To read the nomenclature.
Yeah. That's important. I didn't get that. And so Donald turns you on to that, and then you studied with somebody who is one of my favorites, and I was shocked to hear this. I didn't realize you studied with Marshall Thompson.
Yeah, like the last 2.5 years I was in high school, I studied with Marshall, and it was funny
because when I heard Waning Moments, man, that cymbal beat messed me up, man.
Yeah, man.
And the Shylight stuff and Donna,
right.
Like, man, he's heavy.
Yeah. I mean, he was a Chicago legend, and it was fun, because I had heard, I saw like on like those Wayne Shorter records of EJ, recordings, and Marshall was on some tracks there. And and he played with the pianist Eddie Higgins,
right,
and Trio. He did a lot of stuff with Eddie, and it was funny because right then, so I'm talking 1976.
Okay.
76. And so I had heard about it, because I was with Donald Taylor. I was with him for 10 years, and it just seemed like, okay, 10 years. I think I'm ready to search elsewhere to kind of.
So you're about 16?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was like 15, about to turn 16, and so I was ready to kind of see what else I can learn from another voice.
Right.
After 10 years. And Donald was beautiful, man, my man.
That's incredible, by the way, because most guys, they study with you for 2 semesters and they like, I got everything that Smitty has. Now I'm going to go over here and study with this other guy. And it's like, wait a minute, man. I've been here a long time.
Yeah, right. Well, good luck with that. You know what I mean? That's the way I feel. Good luck. I hope you make it. But so the way I met Marshall was, at that time, I was a sophomore in high school, and that's where I started doing gigs in the city, as we like to say.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing gigs.
So are you driving into the city?
I wasn't driving, but the bands I was working with, like, I was working with all through high school from freshman year, actually even before that, because when I was 12 and I was in 6th grade, like I started rehearsing with this rehearsal big band, because there was this music teacher who was very instrumental in curating my musical talent and giving me an outlet to grow, by the name of Brvsh Mack. And Brvsh Mack taught the jazz band and the jazz program at our local college in Waukegan, Illinois, the neighboring township, one of the neighboring townships called Grays Lake, was our local college, College of Lake County, CLC. They used to joke about it, call it the College of Last Chance. It was a JUCO, right? Junior college, JUCO. Yeah. So College of Lake County. And so he taught the jazz band at College of Lake County, but he had a rehearsal big band that he used to, do like, for a while, he used to do Thursdays, then he did Mondays. and he had it in the basement in his house,
Mm.
and so he lived like about a mile or so away from where we lived, and he didn't have a drummer, and
Oh,
a few of the guys that were playing in the big band, friends of my dad, right, and so they asked my dad. They say, "Hey Marv, because I'm Marvin the second." He said, "Hey Marv, hey man, you think Smitty would be interested in, rehearsing, just playing with the rehearsal big band?" He said, "I'll ask him. I'm 12 years old. I'm in 6th grade."
Wow.
He said, it's like, "Hey, well, Smitty, this guy, they got a rehearsal big band. You think you'd be interested in playing?" "Sure, shoot, I ain't got nothing to do. I just want to play. I want to play music." So, like one of the guys in the band would come by to pick me up with my drums. I load my drums in their car and we drive off to, it was like just like a mile and a half down the road, and go into the basement, set them up, and rehearse all these stock, big band charts or whatever. And then like after we do like a couple hours of rehearsal with the big band, we would do like a trio, like we would just play tunes, trio. It was this pianist named Art Peck and a bass player named Percy Payne, was friends of my dad.
Wow,
And,
that early though.
but he
That
played
young.
he played Fender. He played Fender jazz bass.
But that young, you're getting that kind of experience.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
learning how to
Absolutely.
move, learning how to set things up, how to
Right.
read the charts, and when
Right.
to get off the page. That's amazing.
Right. Yeah. So it was just all great experience for me, man. Early. So during that time, because this is 73,
Mm-hmm.
72, 73. And so, so we had been rehearsing with I had been, just playing with the band for like 9 months or something. And then finally, the band gets their first gig.
Oh wow.
And so, and it was a gig, outdoor gig, so this is like July 4th weekend or something, and I had just turned 13. And so there's this. So this is the first paid gig, right? And what it was what we call the green sheet gig, the transcription gig, right, through the local union, right? So like what you had to do was, okay, it's a transcription gig, so you had to be a member of the union, and you had to, everybody had to sign the sheet, and okay, I'm the member of local, what was Waukegan local 287, I think, right? Yeah, 287, local 287, Waukegan local musicians union local. Anyway, but see, you had to be 16 to be eligible to join the musicians union.
Oh, but you Marvin the second, so you just.
But
used
I'm
dad's
but I'm 13. I'm 13, and like I had been rehearsing with the band for like 9 months, and this is our first gig, our first paid gig,
Right,
and it's like
right.
I'm 13, and you have to be 16 to be eligible. But there were 3 guys in the big band that worked on the board of the union, so they
Oh.
rigged me a union card.
Even better. See, I thought you just used your dad's card.
No. The 3 guys that were members of the union board
Just rigged
me a card
so
I could do the gigs.
And now you
So
can do other
that's
gigs.
that
too.
was my professional start. Right. That was my professional start. Yeah, at 13 to start doing gigs, and my first paid gig was the big band gig, and I just it went from there.
And that's where you met Wendell Marshall.
Marshall Thompson.
I mean Marshall. I'm sorry, Marshall Thompson.
Yeah, I met Marshall a few years later. So that's when I started doing gigs in the city.
Uh-huh.
And so, I had heard about him, prior to that, obviously, and I saw him on the couple records, and and I was hearing about, he's playing around, playing with Eddie Higgins, trio, and his wife Irma was a piano player.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they used to do gigs together. Yeah.
She used to yell at him.
Probably.
You're dragging. You're rushing. You're
Right,
dragging.
exactly. Yeah, right. But anyway, so how I met Marshall was finally, after hearing about him and inquiring about studying with him, what finally happened was I was doing a gig in the city at this club, and it was a double bill. So I was playing with this octet group. And then the double bill was Marshall playing with Eddie Higgins Trio.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, oh, I finally get to formally meet Marshall actually on the gig. So I get to see him play. He gets to see me play. So,
Beautiful.
we do the gig. We did 2 sets, alternating. And then at the end of the night, he's like, hey, all right, young man, I've been hearing about you, yeah, man, okay. I say, yeah, well, I heard about you, and I really want to study with you. So Marshall gave me his number, and he said, hey, well, I teach over at it was the world famous drum shop at the time for many years.
On 6th floor.
Drums Limited. Yeah, on the 6th floor, right on Wabash Avenue.
Yeah.
Like about 3 doors down from Frank's drum shop.
Yeah.
Right? And another great store, which I used to spend all day in, both of those stores.
I heard a lot of those stories about those stores, man.
Yeah, Marshall taught on the 6th floor at Drums. Bill Crowden, the owner of the store, beautiful man. In his later years, he actually got, signed, after he left, the shop, after he sold the shop or the shop it closed. Then he got with Peisty, and he was, like a rep or working in the Peisty organization for several years. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, because I used to see him at the NAMM show, in the past several years I was seeing him. But good dude, man. Bill was a drummer, really, really beautiful cat. Opened up a drum shop, and it was great. It was well stocked, had a lot of stuff, and he was a beautiful cat. So Marshall was teaching out of Drums Limited. So I would go every Saturday. I would take the Chicago and Northwestern train from Waukegan down. It'd make all its stops, North Chicago, Evanston, and all in between. And then finally ends in Union Station in the Chi.
So how long is that ride about?
Well, with all those stops, it was roughly about an hour. It was roughly an hour.
And your lesson was an hour.
And then I would walk from Union Station to Wabash. It would take me roughly about, 15, 20 minutes tops. And then I would go take my lesson for an hour. It was $7.
Wow.
And yeah, and I'd take my lessons, man.
And so what kind of stuff?
Marshall would, yeah, he was buddy. He showed me like he work out of we do some more Podemsky stuff, Wilcox, and then he would show me some brush stuff, man, because he was butter on brushes, man. He was butter, man.
That's what I wanted to ask you. I was wondering. I love your technique on brushes.
He was so smooth. No, I mean just the way he played, it was just smooth. Just the groove he would set, because he would just he would just be smooth with it. Oh, let me.
Check you out. You ready to do a DVD, Smitty?
Yeah, man. So that's it. Yeah, but Marshall was so smooth with it, man. He needs it.
Now, have you always gone clockwise, or do you mess with counterclockwise?
I tried to practice clockwise, and it just wasn't natural for me. It just wasn't natural, man. I just never felt it this way. Now, for edification's sake, I'm left-handed, but I learned how to play drums right-handed because I never bothered to ask. Right?
Whoa!
Because they just said, hey, here, you take the stick here, left hand, put the stick here, you put the right stick here, mama, daddy, single stroke. You play drum set. Okay. I never said like, well, why can't I do it this way? Or why can't I do it this way? I never bothered to ask. It's just
Are
this way,
you
okay.
serious?
And that was that. Right?
I have never, that makes a lot of sense. Greg Hutchison is left-handed.
Yeah, Hutch is left. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but anyway, getting back with Marshall, yeah, man, Marshall would hit me to, brush stuff, they show me how to, 3/4.
So at this point, were you starting to double up on things that you learned? Like, I heard you say a few guys did Podemski, and then a few guys I'm sure did Wilcoxon. Were you doubling up? Were people having you do the same material again, or did they have
No,
different outlooks on the material?
no. They would look, they would just kind of, progress further in the book or whatever, like, cause I tell you, yeah, I studied Podemski, I did this, okay, we'll do some else, and then like maybe, one or two other, books that was around, but more at that time. By that time, I was studying with Marshall. It was really, really getting into more like, brush stuff, and just dealing with like some, like just time and feel things, and
Okay.
and because I was already listening to all the records I could, my dad had and stuff, so I was, you know, so it was just a little, it was just some things more like with some brush things and more like, phrasing technique stuff, like some hand stuff, so it was a little bit more of that kind of thing with Marshall. And it was like, it was basically like 2.5 years, and then I graduated high school, and then I was, thinking about where to go, to school after that. Well, should I go to FAMU? Should I go, like to, Indiana North Texas State? Should
Mhm.
I go, here, there? I was really nervous about New York. I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ready to go to New York. I mean, I ain't heard no school in New York anyway. But like,
Right.
just to drop on the, I was like, well, and so Donald Taylor actually suggested, hey, well, why don't you like look into Berklee College of Music? So because I applied to all those schools I mentioned, and everything. So he said, well, why don't you consider Berklee College, because it's in Boston, so it's closer to New York, so it's kind of probably has more of that, feel and that vibe, so I chose Berklee College of Music, and it was serendipitous, I would like to say,
Oh, to say
because
the least. But 1 second before we get there. So did you have other interests? Did you play sports? Did you like what were
yeah,
your grades like and stuff
mhm,
like? Because going to college at that time, that was
yeah.
the time of like the fees were high, you had to have certain GPA.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was cool. I was, hovering around 3.4, you know,
Oh, nice.
but the GPA. I mean, I was a pretty bright kid. I mean, I was a bright kid, but
That's what I mean to play how you play. That's what I was getting at, like trying to understand. Like, did you have, if you didn't play drums, what else could Marvin Smitty Smith have been a doctor or a lawyer, or did you have any other interests? Were you going to write a book? I don't know.
well, I just liked, I just liked being creative,
Okay.
and I mean, I liked sports. I tried to play. I was just too short, I mean, it was just, because like, but I love baseball,
Oh,
And,
okay.
I mean, I love football because I could run at that
Right.
time. I could run, so I could be like the little running back that scoot around, skip, 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 skip.
Right.
I could kind of do that. I love basketball. I just love the sport, but I was so short,
Yeah.
So,
And that's
it's,
tall
but I
beanpole
really,
guys.
yeah, but I really dug baseball. I really love baseball. I dug the Cubs, because I loved, I loved Ernie Banks, Billy Williams, you know, Ferguson Jenkins, Ron Santo, it was,
Nice.
I mean, and the White Sox, they had Louis Aparicio and, a couple cats, but, but, so, I dug baseball because I just love being able to swing the bat, and I love, trying to play like, outfield, because I
Right.
wasn't an infield guy, because that was just too hot. Like shortstop, man, no, that's too hot. Third base, hot. The
Oh, really?
infield, no, that's too hot. I'm too small. I'm too short to play first base because I can't stretch like
Right,
that. I'm not tall
right,
enough. To have infield, no, but outfield, yeah, put me in, coach.
right.
I'm ready to play today. Look at me, I can be center field, right?
So
So
so now we get
I
you
love
off.
baseball. So, but anyway, but I was creative. I loved reading because I could read, like, I could read, even at age 3, I was reading at like 4th grade level,
Oh, wow.
so I was into reading. I was just reading books, trying to read, things. So I was just curious in that way, really trying to absorb information and read about things and stuff. My parents had certain books around the house, and, as I got older, I started read, because I did an autobiography of Malcolm X. Okay, I was reading. Dick Gregory had a book called The N Word. And I read that. It was his autobiography. I read that, and so I was reading. My parents had Franz Fanon.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, well, what's this book? Like, okay, like I was, stuff was kind of over the head, but I was trying to dig in, man. So that I had that a zest for reading, and learning, some philosophical, some social issues, because my parents were very socially conscious. They were very socially conscious, because they helped integrate the school system in Waukegan, in my hometown, in '66. Yeah.
See, I knew there was something.
They did all that, yeah.
I knew there was something other. Like when I hear you play, one of the reasons I wanted to be in jazz was because I felt like these people, to play this music, something else has to be underneath there. And every time I heard you play, I always said, man, I want to ask you. I know there's something else going on up there. The freeness, the thought process that must have gone into that, because the way I heard it, when you finally did make it to New York, you took all the gigs, but we'll get to that.
Well, no, man. I just created a space for myself. That's what I did.
Yeah, you created the space, all right. So we get you to Berkeley, and you meet.
I decided on. I'm sorry.
You went at the time when it was Berkeley. Not when it turned into Berserkly like it did a few years
Well,
later.
we called it Berserkly back then.
No, but I mean Jeff Watts.
Jeff Watts was, when I got there, that's where I met Branford Marcellus. I met Jeff Watts Tane. I met, Jean Toussaint, Donald Harrison.
Yeah.
Because we were just starting going to school there. Now the guys that were in school that went to school a couple years before us, but were out of the school, but they were just gigging around Boston. Bunch of cats, Kevin Eubanks, Tommy Campbell, Victor Bailey, Bobby Broom. Let me see who else was around.
Where was Branford at? Was Branford around?
No, Branford. We all met right at that same time. So this is like.
Wait, Kevin is older than Branford?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was the other way. Maybe because Kevin's so healthy.
He's been vegetarian he was vegetarian for just about 40 years, and and he's been vegan now for the past 6 years. Yeah.
He
looks great. He looks great. I talked to him the other day, man.
But I always thought maybe that's why I thought Branford was a little bit older, Branford and Winton, for some reason.
Yeah, well, no, but Kevin's a couple years older. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but so I met all these cats, man. And then a little later, Greg Osby showed up, Wallace Roney showed up, Makoto Ozoni, Tim Williams, the trombonist. Gene Jackson. It was just a great, nucleus of people that just appeared right at that particular time frame, and it was just beautiful energy, man. And we just practiced every day. We just just shed it every day, shed it on tunes, and because they had these, they had the practice rooms, and you could only book them for 2 hours at a time. So 3 people would stand in line to book the same room for a 2-hour block. Right? So from 6 to midnight, because that's when they would close the rooms. So from 6 p.m. to midnight, we were just all in there, man, in the shed, just, rotating, play. We just play a couple tunes, and then the next cat go, sit down and play, So it was beautiful energy, man. We learned a lot, man. It was a lot of fun. Great camaraderie and energy.
Who were you studying with? Who were the teachers at Berkeley at that time?
Man, it was just some generic ass teachers, man. They were generic, man. I had this one cat. I never forget, man. And I'm gonna call him out because I don't care. He gone. So, I had this one cat, Bob Kaufman. Man, Bob Kaufman. because he was playing like a group with George Garzone.
Oh, yeah,
And he
yeah,
also
yeah.
played with Bob Galati. They do like the Elvin trio with like Joe Farrell and
Right.
Jimmy Garrison, right? They try to do, so they would try to like imitate that kind of group.
Uh-huh.
So, but Bob Kaufman, he was so jive, man. He would bring like tapes of himself with his band, yeah, and he would play the tapes for me of his gig and be like, yeah, that's swinging, huh? That's swinging, and I was like, I mean, I got the records with Elvin on them. I got those records, man. And that ain't Elvin. No, bruh. That ain't it. So he would actually do that in the lessons, man. Play tapes of gigs of himself, trying to convince me. I'm like, bruh, dog.
Yeah.
Clearly you don't know where I come from. So all I did was I just took the information and then I just went back in the shed and just played with my records. That's what I did.
So your time at Berkeley,
Which was brief. It was only a year and a half. So.
was basically networking.
Well, no, it was just hey, I was on my own for the first time, and I'm in an environment with like-minded people that was into the same thing I was into, and it was just like a great fertile ground to learn and grow, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, it sounds like it was great.
Yeah, it was great, man.
So
Funny,
just a year and a half, and then where'd you go to? Is this where?
So what happened was, I was doing gigs local, with cats and it was beautiful, man. And then so what had happened was, so this was 1980, where, it was break. It was like it was getting around Christmas break, and I was thinking about, I was planning on going home. But then one of the piano teachers at the school, a guy named Alex Ulanovsky. Ulanovsky. Yeah,
Wow,
Alex Ulanovsky. Yeah, he was one of the piano teachers, and at that time, I was doing a few gigs with him, where he was playing. We were playing. So I got to play with him on a few gigs, and so he had been working with Jon Hendricks, the vocalist from Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross and all that. So he had done some gigs with Jon Hendricks, and AD was playing those gigs. Alan Dawson, the great Alan Dawson, had been playing those gigs. But at this particular time, AD couldn't make the gig. So
how it happens.
So Alex.
So tune in next time for the rest of the story. This will be about 2 more parts. So thanks for checking out this episode of Purgatory Perceptions.